Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Lot Pod, the Leeds Rhinos Lot 17A podcast, kindly sponsored by ACD&B, who are a branding and creative design agency based in Farsley, Leeds. They create standout brands. So, for any companies out there that need a brand new logo or a brand refresh, just get in touch with ACD&B. Thank you, as always, to them for sponsoring the podcast and for producing and designing the whole of the Lot 17A fanzine. It looks fantastic. This is not just any Lot Pod, it's another Lot Pod special. And of course, for Lot Pod specials, my co-host is Andrew, aka How are you doing, Andrew?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, very well. It's been a very good couple of weeks for the Rhinos after an outstanding victory at St Helens, the first victory there since, I think, March 2018. And always nice to
I knew you'd have a stat for that.
I always have a stat. I always have a stat. I always have a stat for that, and especially winning it at the Totally Wicked Stadium, a ground that hasn't been too kind to the Rhinos over the past few years, and backing up with a very rare thing that Leeds don't often do is nil teams, as they did against Wakefield Trinity on Friday night, and they go into the derby against Castleford and the Meadowhouse Jungle on Thursday night. Again, of course, you can see live on Sky Sports.
Exactly. Talking of Sky Sports, who is our special guest today, Andrew?
Yes, that was a nice little segue. It's a woman who's always got a finger on the pulse. She's the roving reporter for Sky Sports. She does a wonderful job. It's a fantastic welcome to Jenna Brooks.
Jenna?
Is she there? Have we lost her?
Are you there? Have we lost her?
Have we lost her?
Jenna?
She's there.
Jenna?
She's there.
I've just switched to my phone because something's wrong with my internet. So hopefully this works.
Yes, I'm doing exactly the same things. My internet's a little bit dodgy, but fingers crossed all will go to plan. And thank you so much for coming on tonight. It's a real honour to have someone from the Sky Sports broadcasting team and something we're all very keen to find out about how it all works on a sort of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whatever day the games really appear on. And very much looking forward to getting to meet a drink this one, Ed, aren't we?
Well, the pleasure is all mine. So thank you very much for having me on.
No problem. We'll kind of get started with it all. And sort of the first question for me is, what is a normal rugby league week like in the life of Jenna Brooks and in the Sky Sports offices?
So you say Sky Sports offices ever since COVID. Well, to be fair, I only really started the job. I think I got given the job 2 weeks before we went into lockdown. Wow. I don't spend a lot of time in the offices. I work a lot from home if I'm not on the road at games. So basically Monday is kind of just catching up, doing some prep. I try and always rewatch our broadcast just to pick up anything that I may have missed. Also, I'm my harshest critic, so I like to kind of, watch everything back and see how it all looked from the viewer's perspective. So Monday's kind of doing all of that. Tuesday, I'm sorting out the verdict, which is the slot that we do on Sky Sports News at 3:30. So I'm kind of booking guests. I'm putting the plan together, editing picture for that. We've also started a podcast season. So I do a bit of prep for that on a Tuesday as well. Wednesday, I'm in the offices. I'm in studio for the verdict. Also starting to do prep for the 2 OBs that we're on. And then Thursday is like traveling up because I live in London. So I travel up to the games on a Thursday. And then it's game time, Thursday, Friday. So my days off are Saturday, Sunday, in case anyone cares.
The weekend off.
I've got to ask you, what's John Wilkin like to work for? Because I know he gets a little bit of stick on social media at times.
Bless him. He's not on social media, I think specifically because of that. He's great. He's hilarious. A lot of fun. He's so knowledgeable. I find him a fantastic pundit, and I'm not just saying it because I work with him, but he's very honest. He doesn't care who he upsets. if he gets asked a question, he will answer it, and he'll answer it honestly. And I think that is probably why he was up for the SJA Broadcaster Awards, the Pundit of the Year.
Yeah.
Sadly, he didn't win, but he certainly did Rugby League proud by being nominated for that. And he's fantastic. I love working alongside him.
And Barry, what's Barry like to work along? 'Cause we've had him on the pod as well before, haven't we, Ed?
Baz is just a legend all round. I know you guys look at him as a Leeds legend. Well, he's just a legend. He's hilarious. He's so helpful. When I first joined the team, he really took me under his wing, and so did Tez as well. And yeah, they're fantastic. To be honest, I feel so fortunate. We have an amazing team. It's very much like a family. JJB joining last year with John Wilkin as well. Everyone's very supportive of each other, and we all just, we love each other and we get on really well.
You were stepping into some big shoes at Sky Sports, as the likes of Eddie Hemmings and Mike Stevenson, and obviously Angela Powers. How did that kind of feel to take it to the next level?
Well, you know, Steve-O was probably, I give a lot of credit to Steve-O for getting me kind of through the door at the rugby league team at Sky. So I used to work for Sky Sports News. I'm sure we'll get into kind of how I ended up there, but I was working for Sky Sports News, you know, covering all sports. And there was a rugby league meeting that all the journos from Sky Sports News kind of went to. Steve-O would go through the rules, go through the talking points, all of that at the beginning of the season. And I'd only just recently started at Sky Sports News. And I obviously have always loved rugby league. And I was super excited to go along and meet the great Steve-O. And after the kind of discussion, tutorial, if you want to call it that, I just went up to him and I said, Steve-O, I have to get on this team. This is my sport. I've grown up, you know, watching it. My father played, my grandfather played. I need to be on this team. And this would be going back. It must be going back to about 2000, maybe 2015, even earlier. And he introduced me to the head of Rugby League, who at the time was Neville Smith. And then from there, I started doing little news bits and pieces through Sky Sports News. So absolutely, I give a lot of credit to Steve-O. He's still in touch with me. He still sends me his tips, what I should be doing more of, what I should stop doing. And then Eddie Hemmings, the voice of Rugby League. I mean, he's fantastic. Angela, I didn't really work a lot with. Obviously, she did what I'm doing now. And she left, I think, to pursue other opportunities. And then that's when I was kind of able to come in and take that position full time.
How difficult is it to interview a coach after the team's been beaten? I know, obviously, I've got all different games that we see on Sky during the season, but is it difficult for them to be interviewed at all?
It depends who it is. There's some coaches that I like. Paul Rowley, I love interviewing him, whether they win or whether they lose. And then there's other coaches who I'm not going to name, who I'm kind of sitting there crossing my fingers and legs, being like, please win, please win, please win. I don't want to have to interview you post-match if you don't. But yeah, I think you just need to kind of work out and get to know the individual and kind of work out what way to go with the interview, whether you can be a little bit firm or whether you need to kind of take a couple of steps back. But yeah, it kind of depends on who it is.
What's Rowan like? We've got to ask that, haven't we?
Rowan Smith, he's unique. I think he's an outstanding coach. I mean, what he achieved last year and what he's, you know, the last couple of wins, I mean, outstanding. He is very much like any Smith. Tony, his uncle, similar. I don't know. I don't really know how to say. I think they're fun. They're fun to interview. I got to do an interview actually with both of them when Hull FC went to Headingley the other week. And I thoroughly enjoyed that interview. Both of them were relaxed. They gave me a little bit. And I just think Rowan as well doesn't really know the media over here yet. He's certainly learning. He's picking that up. But I think once he gets to realise that the media over here is very different to the media back home in Australia, it's almost like the media back in Australia are almost trying to get them to say something that they shouldn't. Whereas here, we're all still trying to grow the game. We're all on the one team.
How close did you work with Ian Proctor as a stats enthusiast myself? I love all the stats that he comes out with. And does he help with the preparation for the games during the week?
Proctors, I love him. I love him to death. He is the heart and soul of that rugby league team. And it's so nice that you mention him, because I feel like he never gets enough credit for what he does. So basically, for every game that's on Sky, he will put together a pack of all these amazing stats of like storylines of the game. So everyone that works on the team will get it, even the producers, even the APs who work behind the scenes. And yeah, we all get this incredible stat pack, which is 20, 25 pages long for every game that we do. And he's incredible. And some of the stats are like phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And then me and Procus have such a good relationship that sometimes, and not all the time, but sometimes he keeps little nuggets just for me. He doesn't share them with anyone else. So I'm allowed to kind of use them as and when, but he's the heart and soul of that team.
I think one stat from me is I think Leeds Rhinos need 450 points to reach 25,000 in the summer era. So that's coming up. I've kept a record for that somewhere along the line. So that's one to keep an eye on, hopefully between now and sort of October. What's Phil Clark like to work with? I know he gets a lot of stick sometimes for some of his opinions, but I'm guessing he must be fun to work with as well.
He is, and he's another one that really took me under his wing when I started. He always will give me his take on, a certain way he feels an interview should go. And he'll be like, this is how I would do it. Absolutely up to you what way you go with it. But he's fantastic. And a lot of people wouldn't realize, but he's hilarious as well. He has got the driest sense of humor, as does Brian Carney. But Phil is sometimes he'll be talking and I'm like, I don't know if you're serious or not. Like, are you? We had a conversation. I'm not going to get into detail, but we had a conversation about jetpacks the other week, and I'm sitting there, mouth open, jetpacks, being like, "Are you for real, or are you just pulling my leg?" So he's great to work with.
What's been your favourite interview that you've done since you've been at Sky?
There's so many. I would have to say my favourite interview, and it wasn't so much about the questions that I asked, but it was kind of the way it all unfolded. And it was the 2020 grand final, St. Helens. Kevin Nagama.
Yes.
No, sorry, it was a year after. It was 2021. It was back at Old Trafford.
Yes.
The COVID restrictions were still in. It was Catalan.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Kevin Nagama got Player of the Match, and it was when Rob Burrow was presenting the Player of the Match award, Harry Sunderland, and just what followed. It was incredible. Kevin was already emotional. He was on his knees, and then before I knew it, Brian was throwing to me, and he was not getting up. So I knelt down, and we did the interview on our knees, and then of course. The Burrow family were there. Lindsay Mayer was there, and Rob was there, and it was a moment that I'll never forget. And it was more what happened after and how Kevin interacted with Rob, and then how Lindsay interacted with Kevin and vice versa. It was an incredible moment. I'll never forget it.
What's been your favourite game to work on? I'm sure there's been hundreds since you've been at Sky. Is there one that stands out in particular?
Probably the 2020 grand final at Hull. Not just because of what happened and how that unfolded, but the fact that there were no fans there, but yet the atmosphere was incredible. And I know that doesn't really make sense, but what the game did pre-match with the fireworks and all of that, and then the intensity of that game and the way it ended, it felt like the stadium was full. And it also felt at times that these incredible athletes were performing and going head to head, and there was only however many, I don't even know how many people were there, but it almost felt like you had the best seat in the house, and it was unforgettable. And the game itself was one I loved.
I think that was the most surreal end to a season when Jack Welsby touched down, literally with the last play of the game to win St. Helens the grand final.
And it obviously went viral. I had calls from back home in Australia, radio stations asking me to come on and talk them through what happened and the event. And it was a game that I think really almost put Super League on the map as well. Again, back down under. Everyone was talking about it. It was phenomenal. You think that it's over, and then Paul Bevan French, and then Tommy Makinson. Like, it was all then Jack Wellesby being as young as he was, and that moment for him was so special.
How important has it been for Sky to have the rights to the Women's Rugby League? It's really grown over the last 18 months to 2 years.
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
Huge. I think, I hope that it continues to grow. I hope that the contest this year, so we've picked up an extra game, I think, this year. So we're showing, I think, 3 regular rounds, then we've got the semis and the final again. I just really hope that every game that we show on Sky is a really close contest and it showcases the sport the way it should be showcased. And from that, we can only grow and it can only get bigger. And I think as well what the BBC did during the World Cup has been massive for the women's game, for the wheelchair as well. So I'm just hoping that we can get a little bit more contests this year in the women's game, and there can be closer games. At the minute, we've obviously got the 3 teams, St Helens, Leeds and York, who, you know, I think the 3 of them won the 3 trophies last year. So it will be fantastic if that can happen again, and if there can be, you know, more teams that come to the forefront of the game and can just represent it in the light it should be represented in.
And you look at players such as Amy Hardcastle's obviously made the switch from St Helens to Leeds and actually got more media attention this time around. And I'm guessing that's down to the attention, the media attention that the World Cup has got as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think the fact that some clubs are now paying players in certain ways, Leeds being one of them, which, again, they're definitely not being paid what they should be getting paid. These girls go to work all day. They work, you know, so hard in their day jobs. They've got families, they've got children. They go to training and then they show up and they play and they put their bodies on the line week in, week out. So they deserve to be given some kind of compensation. Slowly it is starting to happen, but we're still such a long way off.
How much did you enjoy working on the World Cup in the winter? It looked really good fun.
It was fantastic. It was on my bucket list, and working, I mean, I've worked for a number of broadcasters around the world, and when I joined Sky and I got the gig for Rugby League, obviously we didn't have the rights, and I got asked to be a part of the World Cup, and I had to get special approval from Sky Sports. So I take my hat off to Sky and thank them so much, because they fully supported me and enabled me to kind of take that time away from Sky to be able to be available for the World Cup. But to work on that, to be part of all 3 competitions. Unfortunately, I wasn't part of the PDRL, but to be part of those 3 competitions, it was frantic. I think at one point I was, because I'm also pregnant, and I was pregnant at the time, and so I kept that kind of quiet. And I was exhausted. And at one point I'm like, I feel like I've bitten off more than I can chew. And can I do this? And I agreed to like be in Newcastle one day. Then I was in London doing the wheelchair. Then I was back in Newcastle doing the men's. And it was all, my husband was like, are you sure you've got this? And I'm like, it's the World Cup. And this opportunity might not come up again. You know, this is the pinnacle of the sport and I want to be a part of it. And it was something, I'm so grateful to Sky that they allowed me. I'm grateful for the BBC, Whisper, everyone. It was unreal.
I want to take you back to the start, Jenna. When did you realise that you wanted to have a career in sort of rugby league and broadcasting?
So rugby league has always been a pretty big part of my life. So as I said, my grandfather played and my father played. So I've always been involved. I've been watching it my whole life. My dad is a fierce St George supporter, so I grew up supporting the Dragons. I still support the Dragons. It's been a tough few years, 10, 11, even 13 actually, but I'm still a proud supporter. And I used to play, not full contact, but I used to play rep touch and rep Oz tag. And I was always very sporty. I used to do, you name the sport, I played it, I did it. I kind of had goals to represent Australia at the Olympics, at running, at swimming, at equestrian. I was never good enough. It was never going to happen. So I kind of went to the next best option, which was covering sport. And I got a job. I did a journalism degree, and I got a job working for the Wide World of Sports at Channel 9. as the like front desk, the production secretary. That was kind of like an entry level back in Australia. And then from there, I just pestered everyone I could. Squeaky wheel gets the oil, they say. I started freelancing for Fox Sports News as a reporter.
Brilliant.
And then I kind of went to SBS, and then I always have been very sporty. I've always loved sport, and rugby league has always been my number one. So I guess that's kind of, thanks to my dad.
How important is it to see the likes of yourself, Danica, Helen Skelton, getting more females involved in the broadcasting side? For me, I think it's brilliant because I think it shows diversity and equality. I think it's, for me, I think it's brilliant that we see more and more females on the TV presenting rugby league.
Absolutely. I think we need more. More of us need to put our hands up and make ourselves available. I think what's important is getting the right people for the right jobs and having people there for not just to tick a box, but just because they love the game, they're knowledgeable, they know it inside out. And I think that, I mean, back home in Australia, when I watch the NRL, like whether that be on Channel 9, whether it be on Fox, there's so many girls involved, and I feel like we are a little bit behind. But then again, the sport is a lot smaller over here than it is back home. So we are again, when it comes to women in sport and women in rugby league, we're on the right track, but there is still a little bit of ground to make up. But yeah, I love it. I feel like I've got the best job in the world. I get paid to watch a sport that I love.
I've got to ask you, have you seen any funny incidents in the tunnels at all when you're sort of preparing your post-match interviews, or any choice words of players that aren't happy at times?
Well, someone else has actually asked me this question before, and I found it it's a tough one because I'm always, the minute that the game's finished, I'm kind of in position to start interviewing. There's very little time in between. I think the strangest thing post-match to ever happen would be in 2020 when Adam Pearson came out to do the interview at Hull FC.
Definitely,
after, Bradford. And I had no idea. And that was like my second week in the job. And he came out, and I'm buzzing through, and I'm like, Lee Radford's not coming, it's Adam Pearson. And it was game time, and it was like, this is going to be a massive interview. I don't think that's ever happened before. And that, I don't think anything will ever top that.
No.
I've got to ask, what happened with Rowan and the Saints fans?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yes, that was. And so basically, I was about to do my player of the match interview with Aiden Caesar.
Yes.
And all the fans kind of came down to the touchline. Thankfully, there was a barrier there separating us. And I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, and and there was hardly any, there was a few stewards there. So it was under control. I never at any point felt like scared, and I'm sure he didn't either. But the abuse that they were serving up.
Wow.
It was, and Aiden's like, he handled it like a pro. He was like, calm down, it's just sport. It doesn't matter. It's sport, it's a game. And they're just laying into him, and and then all of a sudden, again, Brian's thrown to me, and I'm like, well, you've got to talk about what you see. So, and then Rowan, so I didn't see it. I only saw it later when, because I think it all happened when I was interviewing Aiden Caesar. So Rowan, bless him, again, started conversing with these Saints fans, having a conversation with them, and they were just abusing him. And he was kind of like, never in sport have I seen this, certainly not in my career, not down there. And he said the same thing. He was like, this is bizarre. Why are they so angry?
Do you think it had just spilt over because of the way the game ended, with obviously Conrad Hurrell got sent off, Sam Walters could have possibly been sinned in for a potential shoulder charge, and obviously Leeds haven't beaten Saints for so long at the Wicked Stadium. Do you think it had just been a little bit over-emotional at the end?
I think so. I think that, and listen, I need to make it clear that it wasn't the entire stadium. There were so many supporters there. I think there was close to 17,000 that night. It was only a select few. And you know, I try and look at the positive of it, and how good is it to see how much they love the sport. They love their team. They love the game so much that they took it to the next level. Yes, it wasn't appropriate, but it was great to see the passion. But yeah, I agree. I think that, Saints fans are probably not used to losing either. They've won. They win every game. It's very rare. No one thought Leeds were going to win that night, did they? Did you guys think Leeds were going to win?
No,
I did.
I did. Did you?
Yes.
Well,
I
you're
have
the only
to
one.
admit,
I was the
after
only
the
one,
whole
Jenna.
After the whole defeat, I thought we were going to be 0 from 3, but we turned up, we pull it on them, and also we beat Wakey on Friday, and then also we've got the derby at the Jungle on Thursday night. And from a Leeds perspective, it's turning into a solid start, and I think it makes it for a better competition that at the moment anyone can beat anybody.
Oh, that's it. I mean, to see Lee back up and beat Saints at the weekend, like I'm in a tipping comp. I'm doing so poorly because you can't pick. And that's what we want. Like, as much as St Helens are an amazing club and they've done the sport proud by going down and beating Penrith in the World Club Challenge, we want to see tight games. We want Lee to come in and be able to beat, the reigning champs. We want Leeds to back up from the success that they had last year. I want to see, I want to go into a game and not genuinely not know who's going to win this.
Yeah, I remember sort of obviously back before Super League came Super League, Wigan were the dominant force of Rugby League in the sport before the salary cap came in. And I think they won, 7-8 Challenge Cups, and it was very difficult to get anywhere near them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what we're seeing from St Helens. While it would be amazing to see them win 5 in a row, what are we calling it? The drive for 5.
Drive for 5, yeah.
I think for the sport, for the purpose of the sport, for people who we're trying to introduce rugby league to, whereas we're always trying to get new eyeballs on the game, you don't want the same team winning every year. I just think it takes out the surprise factor. It takes out a reason to really watch. You want these games to be close and hard fought.
And just thought, last one for me, and I don't know if you're allowed to answer, who do you tip to win Super League this year?
So I didn't. I tipped Wigan to win, actually. I feel like their back three are sensational. However, they have been kept quiet. They were certainly kept quiet in the freezing cold on Thursday night. And I've tipped Wigan. I think Matty Pete is an outstanding coach. I think what the club are doing as well. I don't know if you guys watched our broadcast, but we had John Wells at halftime able to go into the dressing room. I mean, they were trailing as if any of them wanted him in there. But again, they allowed him to go in and listen in. And I just think the club as a whole are certainly trying to take the game forward. And I tip them. I rate Jay Field, Bevan French, Liam Marshall.
Well, we both hope you're wrong, Eddie, don't we?
Yes.
We can win that 9th grand final. But long season, I think, as you say, it's great that you're going into these games and you don't know who's going to come out on top. And I know Salford blew Hull away at the weekend, but other than that, the games were close, apart from mostly the Huddersfield game against Cass on Friday night. But it's turned into a very enjoyable season so far.
I know. And what are we, 4 rounds in?
Yes.
Warrington have impressed me. I actually tipped Warrington last year to win. I shouldn't probably mention that. I should have just let that go. But I think that they could certainly do. I mean, if they keep going the way Paul Vaughan has been outstanding.
Yes.
So I'm really excited. I don't know. I've got no idea who's going to win. Who knows? Maybe it'll be Wigan, Warrington. Who knows? Rowan Smith might have the goods, and it'll be the Leeds Rhinos.
It'll be a hero if he does, won't he, Eddie? Right, Eddie, I'll leave
He's already a hero.
Over to you.
Right, Jenna, we've got some questions from our listeners. We opened a mailbag, and our listeners have been in touch. So I'll fire through some of these for you. Louise asks, what is Jenna's favourite Super League ground?
So this is a hard one, and I like different grounds for different reasons. I'm going to go the Jungle because of the atmosphere. I love Headingley, and I'm not just saying it because I'm on this podcast, but the girls at Headingley really, really look after me, and I get blankets with the little Rhinos logo on it. I get offered coffee, tea. The facilities, I mean, look, it is the best stadium in Super League at the minute. But yeah, I love the hospitality there as well. I find Huddersfield, I find the John Smith Stadium really picturesque. Like you look out and you've got the kind of mountain range behind the stands.
Yes.
But yeah, so I like different stadiums for different reasons, really. But yeah, they're probably my 3 top.
Good answers. Ronnie asks, you've kind of answered this, but how does your day plan on the day of a game for a broadcast? Like, what time do you arrive? How long are you there, and etc.?
So I usually always get there before 3 p.m. On game day, keeping in mind we're on air at 7:30. So I usually arrive for 3 p.m. for a production meeting. So we go over everything, all the big talking points, what we all want to cover and what we want to get out of the game. And then from there, you've got, a food break. We all kind of get together, catch up. It is a very funny team. So we all kind of sit around and joke. And then we have rehearsals. Also, hair and makeup, very important and takes a very long time. So, yeah, we've got hair and makeup. So, yeah, it's kind of filled. But basically, on air at 7:30. And then ending-wise, as soon as we're off air, we all kind of meet back in the trucks, have a very quick debrief. Then, because I live in London, I always stay up on a Thursday night, depending on where we are, get back to the hotel, either crash, go to sleep and get up early to do prep the next morning, or I'll stay up and read Procker's notes that night. And, so that's kind of a little glimpse into a day on an OB.
Brilliant. Melissa asks, is there someone Jenna would love to work with? Is there anyone you'd like to work with, Jenna?
I love this question. So I would have to say it's a hard one because there's so many people, but having started my career at Channel 9, I would have, and this will probably never happen because he's retired, but Ray Warren, Rabs, who is the voice of Rugby League.
Agreed,
I obviously worked with him when I was at Channel 9, but not directly. I would love to hear that voice say my name and come down to me on the touchline. So I'd have to say Ray Warren.
Yeah, good answer. Really good answer. Voice of Rugby League. Harriet asks, what would be your final meal, or what's your favourite food, Jenna?
I love food. Pasta. I love a good spag bowl.
Yes.
So yeah, that's my go-to, really. I'm a little bit of I like plain food, but I do love food, and I will try anything once. But yeah, spaghetti bolognese. That's a bit
classic.
of me.
You can't beat it. It's a classic. Paul asks, how long did it take Jenna to acclimatise to the weather in England? Did it take you a while to get used to this dreadful weather, Jenna?
I mean, I can't answer that question because it's ongoing. I get paranoid because I do feel like I'm always whinging and complaining about the weather. But it is cold, and even northerners get cold. Thursday night at Wigan.
Oh, it's horrendous.
It was the coldest I've ever been. We were in the snow. No one cares. We're in the snow. We're doing these interviews. Again, hats off to the players and coaches who hang around post-match to do those interviews because it's icy. There's no coat warm enough. Like, there's no coat that's ever been invented that will keep me warm, put it that way. So, yes, taking its time, still acclimatizing.
Even after all these years.
Yeah.
Bianca asks, who is the funniest member of the Sky team?
See, they're all funny. They're all very funny. The funniest, Brian Carney. Brian Carney's hilarious. It's almost, you wouldn't believe it because on air he's just such a professional. He's so just perfect when he's on air. Off air, he's again a dry sense of humor. Sometimes I'm like, are you being serious? Are you pulling my leg? Like, what is going on? He's so funny. I don't know if you guys ever remembered when he was playing for the Knights in the NRL, he'd go on the Thursday night footy show. And he was just side-splittingly funny. Well, he will have us all in stitches time and time again.
Has he told you about his conversion he did for Wigan at Huddersfield? I think back in 2006 from the touchline.
No, he hasn't, but please go ahead.
There, yeah, I think it was an end of season game, 2006-7, when he was at the Wigan, and nothing game, and he kicked the last goal from the touchline. I think he showed it before a few years ago. It's on YouTube somewhere if you type Brian Carney conversion. So
I'm going to
one to
write
look
this
out
down.
for.
I'm going to write this down. I'm going to ask him on Thursday.
Yes.
I'm sure he's probably got it saved under his videos, and he can
He'll
show
have it
it
on
to
his
me.
phone. Yeah.
Yes.
It's this one. Prepped and ready.
Yeah.
Ralph asks, if you weren't in the job you currently are, what job do you think you would be doing, Jenna, if you weren't in
it's hard because this is what I've always wanted to do. So there's nothing else.
This is your dream job. Wow. Yeah.
This is my dream job. I'm doing it. I'm living it. I guess I'd probably like to maybe be home and covering the NRL or covering, rugby league in, a different capacity down under, just to be closer to family. But yeah, still doing the same thing. Like this is it for me. Love it.
Living the dream. Andy asks, what is Jenna's favourite film? Have you got a favourite?
Favourite film? I've got so many. I'm gonna go with National Velvet, which is an oldie. I'm a horsey girl. I love horses. So National Velvet with Elizabeth Taylor and the Pie. Mickey Rooney was in it as well. If you haven't seen it, get your tissues ready.
Need to see that.
Yeah.
Get your tissues ready. And then the last one, and Jenna, thanks a lot for coming on and speaking with us. It's been brilliant to have all your insight and that bit of a behind-the-scenes flavour. Obviously, we see you on the screen on Sky all the time. It's nice to hear some behind-the-scenes stuff. Last question from us is from Darren. What other sports does Jenna enjoy?
See, I love all sports. I love watching sport on TV, particularly because I like seeing how other sports go to air and the production behind it and the things that they do differently. I love rugby union as well. I love kind of any form of rugby. Tennis. I was always a Roger Federer fan.
Yeah.
My husband, the NFL. So I used to live in San Francisco and I used to cover the 49ers for Comcast Sportsnet.
Oh, wow.
So probably NFL. I mean, look, I love sport. Any sport that's on, I'll probably sit down and watch it.
Fabulous.
Jenna, it's been fantastic having you on. Thanks a lot for coming on the Lot Pod.
Thank you very much for having me. I've enjoyed it. Hope, I haven't bored you.
Oh, God, no. It's a real good insight to understand what it looks like behind the scenes. And from my perspective, I want to try and get back into the media because it's so difficult to have any openings and just to understand how it works on a match day is really intriguing to see. And it's been very, very enjoyable, very much an eye-opener. So thank you so much for agreeing to come on. It's really appreciated.
No, I appreciate the invite. Thanks for having me.